Hi everybody, good evening everyone. And on behalf of Genix, I would like to welcome all of you all to this webinar on securing your digital infrastructure and data security in Microsoft 365. As a new member to the team, I would like to introduce myself first. I'm Shamal Nitilva. I've joined the sales team as a sales consultant for the small to medium business sector. And I carry almost 22 years of experience in IT sales, but I left the industry for about 7 years, and I'm very excited to back with Genix as well as the IT industry. And I definitely look forward to meeting all of you all who are present today in our future engagements. More importantly, let me introduce our speaker today, who is a Sri Lankan born with over 15 years of experience in shaping work environments, marshalling resources, business development, international sales and marketing, training, IT and strategic financial business planning are few to mention. His key areas of focus in his job, right, are typically technical consulting, technical sales, customer support, training product and educational program management, establishing relationships with major accounts and channels of the IT industry, both in Sri Lanka and the international market. He is presently attached to Microsoft in a regional role and as the partner development manager in cloud technology. Let me now hand over to Mr. Akwash Latibu to take over from here. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, Shamal. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time and joining the session today. Let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay, hope my screen is visible. Yeah, okay, great. So thank you so much, Shamal, for the introduction. My name is Akwash, and I'm the cloud specialist for Modern Workplace at Microsoft, covering the Southeast Asia new markets. So today, I'll be taking you all through, or I'll rather be talking on the Microsoft 365, on how Microsoft 365 product suite can protect your data as well as your identity and your infrastructure. And also how best that you could use some of the tools that are available within Microsoft 365 in order to protect your current environment. Right, so these are some of the items that I will be talking about and taking you all through. So, like I said, what we'll cover is key challenges for small and medium businesses in a work from anywhere world. And then we will look into enabling collaboration and IT security with Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And then finally, we look at and how the business benefits of M365 Business Premium and reducing cost and complexity there. Right, and that is where I will mainly talk more on zero trust and the security aspects of all the related things that would come in. All right, okay, so let me quickly go into the slide and let's see. Okay, fine. Now, you know, with the recent pandemic that had happened, right, and which is currently ongoing, okay, there are a lot of things that had changed from what we used to have to what we are now, right? Especially the way that we work, the way that we shop, the way that we go to get medicines, and the way that we educate our children, or the way that we learn rather, right? Everything has changed from a traditional method to what we have today, right? So when we look into the traditional method, we used to go to office where it's a place where a lot of people come and go, and then we do go there and start collaborating and working with each other. And when we look into medicine, now it's all telemedicine instead of going into hospitals and taking medicines and so on and so forth. Education, we see some kids go to school, some kids stay at home and learn, through online platforms and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of changes that had happened, and due to this change, right, due to this necessity that has happened in the recent past, right, what we have done is we have created a hybrid workplace. Okay, so this is the environment that we are in. So the traditional boundary of an organization have been broken, where it has been governed by a couple of firewalls and the network perimeter that has been expanded to more of a global environment, right? So now you don't have a place where you go sit and work. Your work will come from anywhere where you are, as long as you have connectivity and a device that you can connect to. Okay. So with this expansion happening, right, one thing that we have to notice, the conventional security tools that we have is not enough. All right. And that boundary to protect that environment has to be expanded. So we need to have newer tools, newer ways of protection, because the more remote that we go, new threats emerge from in the landscape. Okay, and everything becomes more and more complex, right? Bad actors come every day. There could be new attacks coming in, like cookie hijacking, DDoS attacks, and ransomwares, right? So all of those sort of related attacks can come in, and with those attacks coming in, and with more and more people working digitally, regulatory bodies will also come up with certain new regulations. Right? If you really look at, I think last week or week before, Sri Lanka, we had a new act that was passed by the Parliament for data protection, right? Which was on draft stage for quite some time, and now it's been, I hear that it has been passed or something like that. So likewise, new and new regulations are going to come in, and we need to make sure that we meet all those regulatory landscape, right? So that is where we will be going into. So, so when we look into a small and medium business, okay, what are the top challenges is how can we do distributed work together? That is, wherever we are, okay, we are connecting today from home. Some people go to office and connect, some connect from on the road, they use their mobile devices to connect, right? Wherever we are, how do we all work together in a more collaborative manner? The next challenge is collaboration not only is enough, because we need to make sure that collaboration is secure, so that not bad actors or any malware can come into our network and take our data away, or we have an insecure environment, right? So we need to make sure that we have more secure and collaborative work. And of course, at the end, we look at how can we reduce our costs, right? In terms of the investment that we are going to make in order to make this collaboration happen, as well as in order to make this collaboration more secure, and also, in case if there is a breach, on how we can reduce that particular cost and so on. Right. So this is the common misconception that a lot of organizations have, is they all think the attackers only target Fortune 500 companies or big enterprises. Okay, that's not true. Actually, if you really see, a lot of attacks happen in the small and SMB segment, right? In the small and medium sized businesses as well, right? So if you look at the first proof point, now it's just like 33%. That's 1/3 of all cyber attacks are targeted at small businesses, right? I didn't say this. There have been research that has been done. There have been studies that have been done, right? So all of those, okay, and 61% of small businesses that experience a recent cyber attack were not able to operate. So usually, when we look at cyber attacks, it comes as phishing attacks, it comes as ransomware attacks, and so on and so forth. So when these sort of attacks come in, either your identity gets breached, either your data gets locked and encrypted that cannot be used, right? And because of this, what happens is you will not be able to operate. Rather, your business comes into a still point. Okay, and of course you will lose a lot of money on that particular incident. Okay, so an average cost of 108K US dollars is been lost, or it has been identified as the cost of SMB data breach, right? Whereas in an enterprise, it's much more higher. Right? It can even go into 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollars, or even no, it can reach into that particular aspect depending on the size of your company and the data that's been impacted and so on and so forth. So, so please note that not only Fortune 500 or enterprises get attacked. Attackers are open for anything and everything. All right. So as long as there are loopholes, as long as they do the attack, they can find ways and means to come in and do innovative ways of coming into an organization. Okay, so we have to make sure that we protect our organization. So when we look into Microsoft 365 for Business, there are 3 plans that are available: the Business Basic, Business Standard, and Business Premium. Right. So all these 3 plans have its own apps and services that are available, and it is 100% cloud-based solution, and it's on a SaaS model that Microsoft give these solutions, right? And you have the Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive in the Business Basic, whereas in the Business Standard you have multiple other products, including the Office product comes in. Right. So the highlight here is on the Business Premium, you have Office and the Collaborative Suite, as well as a set of security and device management related capability products that are available. Right now, I'll talk about these products and how important these products can be within your organization, on how you would be able to protect your organization using these products and solutions that are available. Now, so coming into what you have at the moment, right? So some of you all will have Business Basic, Business Standard, as well as Business Premium related products in your organizations, right? So these are like, top 10 security tasks that anyone should do based on in order to protect your organization. First and foremost step, right? Everyone, make sure that you have enabled multi-factor authentication. This is really key, because if you enable multi-factor, you would be able to reduce, or you would be able to at least reduce a great deal, at least about 99.9% of your attacks, right? Because today identity is everything. All right, because your identity protects the data that is there. Because when I say identity, it's your username, it's your password. All right, so what does multi-factor do is it gives an additional layer of protection. Not only your username and password is enough, you need to have another method to authenticate to go in, right? It could be over a phone call, it could be over an SMS, it could be by validating your biometric on your mobile phones through the app, right? There are multiple ways that you would be able to set up the multi-factor authentication. So make sure you enable multi-factor authentication in all your cloud user accounts, right? So if you take Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium, or any Microsoft Office 365 plan, it always comes with multi-factor authentication. So make sure that you enable that. The next is training your users, right? That's key, right? Because the weakest link in a security attack is your end users usually, right? So you could have any of these, right? But if you have a user who does not know, or who is not aware of a phishing link, or maybe an exe which is infected, or which is planted, if he double clicks and executes it, that's it. Right, so you have to make sure that your users are advised and your users are always been trained, right, on these latest cybersecurity issues, and how to not click on unauthorized or unidentified links and so on and so forth. So that is also key. And third point that I would like to highlight here is use dedicated admin accounts. Why? If you are the administrator, don't use that admin account for your day-to-day activities. You have your own user account for your email checking and all of those non-admin tasks. Use only the admin task for your privileged activities, because if you use your admin account for everything and if that it becomes breached, right, then the breach becomes bigger, because the admin account has access to anything and everything, whereas the user account may only have access to a limited set of resources. So the breach will only be within that limited set of resources. But when the breach happens using an admin account, it goes more than the user account. So that's very critical that you use only admin accounts. And of course, right level of protection against malware in email, that you could use the Exchange Online protection that comes in, and protect against ransomware. You need to make sure that you use your security configurations more thorough, right? Stop your auto forwarding of emails, right, and so on. So I can share the link later on in order to do this, right? The steps of this, and each one of these items have its own links where you can click, and it will give you the steps on how to make sure, or how to make it more complex. I mean, make it more thorough in your environment, make you more secure, right? Especially on a train your users. I think there is a guide on the training which you can share within your organization and so on. Okay. Another important point that I would like to highlight is the secure scope, right? So Office 365 and M365 has the secure score capability within the portal, right? So every portal has its own secure score that you can click and you can find out, and it will always benchmark your organization with similar other organizations around the globe. It will take this number of seats, right, and the industry that you're in, and compare and show you whether you are above average or whether you are below the industry standard. So, and it will also give you certain recommendations on how to improve your secure score in your tenant, yeah, within your organization. So please make sure that you do note your secure score within your Office 365 or M365 tenant. So that is how you would protect or make your current environment more secure. Then we go into, if you really look at how we work, like I mentioned earlier, right? Let's say this is our organization. Okay, we have people connecting from home office, that is from their home. We have people connecting using SaaS application. We have customers who come in, right? We have people connecting using their personal devices, their partner devices. We have partners coming in, right? We have identities comes into play, right? We have our company-owned devices, we have other cloud solutions, right? IoT related devices. So all these things, and we have on-premise servers, services, apps that are goes on, right? So all these things are connected today in order for us to be more productive, for us to make sure that we can carry out our tasks accordingly, right? So this is where our organization has expanded its boundary, and a lot of what can I say, services, devices, identities, complexity come into our network, right, in our day-to-day life. So when this complexity comes in, right, one thing that we have to make sure is we need to have a new method, right, a principle to protect our organization. All right, so this is where the zero trust method comes in. All right, so zero trust is a security framework that was coined about 10 to 12 years back, but it has been used vastly in the past about 4 to 5 years, I believe, right? because of this expansion in our traditional working method to the new norm and to the new reality, right, where a lot of remote working comes in, this is where zero trust comes in. So what does zero trust means? Sorry, right? Zero trust has three major pillars, starting from verify explicitly. So that means everything that comes into your network will be verified, whether it is coming within a trusted firewall environment or whether it is coming from a different environment, right, from a remote environment. Everything will be verified, right? So that is where we enable multi-factor, right? Whether he is coming in from your organization or whether he is coming out from your organization, he has to be verified whether this is the user that he is claiming to be he is, right? So that needs to be verified. The next one is use least privilege access. That means, like I said earlier, you should not use the admin account for everything. You need to have a user account where that user account will have his or her own limit of access, authorization and authentication, and then you will use that only for that particular purpose, right? So that is where use least privilege access comes in, okay? And then you assume breach. Every time you have to think that I will be breached, right? And take the necessary actions in order to protect your network. Every click that you do, you need to make sure that you assume breach is going to happen and make sure that you validate, that you verify everything and click. So these three are the major pillars in terms of making the zero trust framework coming into an organization, deploying a zero trust framework. Okay, so now this zero trust framework applies to 6 pillars, right? We have the identity, which is your username and password. You have your endpoint management, right, which is the device that you connect to your organization or that you use in order to use your username and password and to access certain services like apps, infrastructure, networking, as well as your data, right? So zero trust has to be implemented and on all these 6 individual pillars that are there, right? So if you really look at it, so your zero trust is verifying explicitly everything, using least privilege access and assuming breach, right? You have your identity and you have your endpoint, all right? And this whole identity and endpoint will be used in order to access your data, apps, infrastructure, and your network. All right. Now, when your identity goes into endpoint and when your endpoint, using your endpoint, you access these services, that has to be governed by a set of security enforcement policies, right? Now, what sort of endpoint do you use in order to come and access your data, apps, infrastructure, network? Who are these identities, right? And what is your password? What sort of environment do you trigger MFA? Okay, and how long should your password be? So all of those will be governed by the security enforcement policy that is in the middle, right? And of course, you know, you will have to have visibility on everything. You need to have analytics to make sure that you take informed decisions. And of course, you need to have certain level of automation in order to make this more practical. Okay, so when we put those pillars into Microsoft's zero trust, all right, now first I also would like to emphasize a little bit more on this is zero trust is not Microsoft's framework. It's a vendor neutral framework that's available to anyone and everyone, right? So Microsoft makes sure that we build our solutions based on this particular framework, right? So if you really look at, when we look at identity, we have the Azure Active Directory where we have all our usernames and our passwords are stored. All right. Then when we have the devices, okay, there are a couple of things. We have the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is the endpoint platform protection, right? Or the antivirus that protects your endpoint. And also we have the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which has the Intune related products, which will make sure that your device is protected with the right policies. Okay, and it has the right health in order to connect to your data, your apps, your infrastructure, and your network. Right. So your data will be protected using the Microsoft Information Protection pillar. All right, so that has the ability to classify data, right? And then your applications, all right, this could be cloud apps which are hosted in multiple other clouds. It could be on AWS, it could be on G Suite and so on, right? So that will be protected using the Microsoft Cloud App Security, which is now named as Microsoft Defender for App Security, right? Then you have the infrastructure, your infrastructure, whichever that is hosted using the Azure security that comes into play, right? Then you have the network, okay, which will have the Azure networking area to come into play. Now, all of these will be governed using the Microsoft Azure Active Directory conditional access, right? Policy enforcements, right? So all of these policies are based in the core is Azure Active Directory, right? So this is how the Microsoft Zero Trust is been built upon. Okay, so let me take you further on this solution. So by the way, if you have any questions, you can put those questions in the chat environment and we will be able to take those questions and answer them. Now, when we put that different solutions into a kill chain or an attack chain, all right, how did those solutions come into play? All right, so let me populate this slide first. Now I'll take some time to explain this slide. When we look at first, we have the Defender for Office 365, right? So Defender for Office 365 comes in two different flavor. One, we have Plan 1 and then we have Plan 2. All right, Plan 2 has some additional features than Plan 1, right? Which is onto something like attack simulations and so on and so forth. Okay, right. Now, what does Defender for Office 365 do? It protects your email, right? It is your email ATP, all right, or email threat protection, right? Any threat that comes through your email, it will be protected by Defender for Office 365, right? What sort of threats can you get through email? So today, if you see, you must be getting a lot of phishing related emails. When I say phishing related emails which comes with malicious links, which will ask you to click on it and put your username and password, which will say, okay, you have won $100 million using lottery, and to claim that award, you have to click on a link and it goes to a website. And in that website, it will ask you to give about, $10 to get that $100 million. And to get that $10, you need to put your username and password of your online banking. The moment you put that in, the attacker gets your details and then he will do whatever he wants to do at the back end, right? So that is an example of a phishing email. So how does MDO, or what we call as Defender for Office 365, protects that? So every email that comes in will be scanned, right? With safe links, safe attachment. Okay, every link that comes in which is embedded inside an email will be scanned by MDO, whether that link is malicious, whether that attachment is malicious, whether there are certain things which are embedded into it or not, right? And that particular link will be compared against Microsoft Security Graph, which has about 6.5 trillion signals that has been passed through that particular security graph, right? And this link will be vetted across that graph, and then it will inform your email server saying that, oh, okay, this email is safe, you can take it inside. All right, or it may say, oh no, this email is not safe, and it may not, it will drop it, or it will send it to quarantine, or it will delete the email according to the settings that you do. Right, so there is something called Microsoft Security Graph, right? So this security graph has about, imagine that it is like a funnel, and this has about 6.5 trillion signals coming in every day. and every attack or every email comes in to you is being compared with these signals, right? And then verified, right? Whether you have been breached or not, whether there is an attack, whether it is safe or not, right? Imagine this, you could be a 10-seat or 50-seat or a 100-user organization, right? You use the same technology as one of the Fortune 500 companies, right, use today, right, which is on Microsoft 365. Because if you take Fortune 500s, at least like 80% of the Fortune 500 have some sort of Microsoft cloud solution running there. Okay, so let's say for an example, if a company in the US gets attacked today, right, that information is captured and it is put into the 6.5 trillion signals into Microsoft Security Graph. So the same attack comes to you. It goes again back to the security graph and it compares and it says, oh no, this has been marked as a phishing attack, so you are protected, right? So, you know, when you have an on-premise environment, everything is sort of limited to yourself, right? Whereas in cloud, the power of cloud is it has been used by multiple people and it is real time, right? See, if you I'll come to that point in a while. Okay, so MDO is your email protection. Then we have is MDE, right? So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Now, what does MDE? MDE is your endpoint protection, EPP, and endpoint detection and response, EDR, combined together, right? So this works. This is a cloud powered or a cloud-based product which acts as your antivirus. No, see, basically, if you really think, you should think of. I saw from a third-party, very well popular article. A company has released saying that antivirus is dead now, right? Actually, antivirus is dead, right? No, because those days then we used to wait for security signatures to download to our computer to protect. All right. So when an attack comes in, we have to wait for the signature to download. Those days are gone. Now everything is cloud, real time, right? So Defender for Endpoint, it has its signature in the cloud, keeps on validating and updating. Why? Because it has this security graph in it, right? It has all the related signals, latest threats, everything been fed. So anything that comes to your device, all right, everything is secure. Everything it goes and compares and says, OK, this is a threat. This is not a threat, right? And it keeps on validating. It keeps on protecting your devices. So MDE is your endpoint detection and response as well as your EPP, right? So remember that. Then you have the beg your pardon, the Azure Identity Protection piece, right? So Azure Identity Protection, this is where you have your cloud-based username, password, your username and password, which is stored inside your Azure Active Directory, right? So it protects that, and it also has something called conditional access, right? And it also provides you single sign-on, okay? And it also has a lot of other features where it has like privileged identity management, right? And so on. So with privileged identity management, this is where you will be giving your environment only privileged access to certain usernames, right? For a certain limit of time. For an example, if a user wants to be an admin to perform an admin task, you can enable privileged identity management. It goes through a workflow. Either it could be approved by someone or you could give only for time based and say, OK, this person needs to be an admin for 10 minutes from this time to this time. And then after that, after he performs the task, it will automatically revert back to a normal user account, right? In the past, you know, when we used to have on-premise Active Directory and so on, right? So what used to happen is we used to give admin privilege for certain people and then forget about it, right? So those people are admin forever. So that's not recommended. So use technology like privileged identity management there. Now, coming back to conditional access. So what does conditional access do? I'll give you a simple example, right? let's say if a user is logging into my email, let's say I am logging into my email now from Sri Lanka, right, at 2:30 or let's say 3:30 now, logging to my email inbox, right? And suddenly at 3:35, I try to log into the same inbox using the same username and password from England. That's an impossible travel, right? So Azure Active Directory identifies those. Okay, so that means there is someone who is trying to attack from a different place to my mailbox, and he's trying to get access to it. So the moment that happens, conditional access based on our configuration, our policies will trigger saying that, okay, do MFA again, right? Or limit access, or ask the person to reset the password, right? Something like that. So based on certain conditions, it will enable certain policies. Or for an example, that's one example. Another example could be, let's say you are trying to connect to your corporate resource using a device which was not updated, right? Where Windows was not updated, right? Let's say you go on a holiday and after some time, you do not update your device, right? So that's a risk, right? And you try to connect your device to your corporate, then conditional access will give you either limited access, or it will say, okay, you have to do MFA, or it will give you, ask you to put you in a quarantine place and say, update your device and come, and so on and so forth. So there could be a lot of those sort of protection will come in, right? Then you have what we call as MDI, or Microsoft Defender for Identity. Now, similar to the cloud username and protection, we sometimes have on-prem servers, right? Like the Active Directory servers on-premise, right? So that will be protected by the Defender identity. Okay, MDI we call it as. All right. So that we put in agents that will be installed, or sensors rather, that will be installed on the Active Directories, on-premise Active Directories. Those sensors will collect all sort of lateral movements that's happening in my Active Directory. If there are any breach that comes in, right? If there's something that related to a breach that comes in, right? Everything will collect and will feed it into my cloud, and will protect against all those threats, right? So that is MDI. And then we have something called the Cloud Access Security Broker, or the CASB solution. So Microsoft has the Cloud App Security, right? MCAS, or currently it's been named as Defender for App Security, right? So this works with Azure Identity Protection. This works with Microsoft Information Protection. This works with a lot of other, like MDE and so on, right? In order to do this. So Cloud App Security protects you from something called shadow IT, shadow comms, right? And also it protects you from apps that are installed in your organization. So when I say shadow IT, right, let me come a little bit more details to you. Is, let's say now if you take not only IT has budgets for the IT department have budgets in an organization, right? Every other department, HR has its own budget, marketing has its own budget, and so on and so forth. So sometimes without the knowledge of IT, HR goes and purchase maybe a tool to do surveys, right? Marketing goes and purchase some tool to do some, data collection or digital marketing or what and what not, right? And all these could be SaaS-based apps that are available, $5, $10, $50, $100 that are available on the online, right? People can buy, just install it on their computers and start using it. Okay, so shadow IT is that without the knowledge of IT, organizations try to have all these sort of apps and comes in and start working on those. And those apps could be not sanctioned by IT, not approved by IT, right? Then IT should have a control in order to say, what does my environment look like? How many apps do I have? Whether those apps are approved or not, whether they are malicious or not, right? So how do we find out? It is using this CASB. So CASB will keeps on evaluating your environment, and it has its own portal where it will show you have 500 different apps in your environment, and out of that, it will rank like 1 to 10, where apps which are I think it is 1 is malicious and 10 is approved apps, something like that, or it's the other way around, right? It will have that rating and it will show you that, okay, you know what? These apps are harmful for your environment. These apps are approved. You better remove these apps or you better disable these apps and so on. So the IT can go into the Cloud App Security portal and disable those apps and remove those apps and so on and so forth. You have so much of telemetry there. You'd be able to, do a lot of things. And you may ask, so how does CASB find out which app is approved, which app is not, which app is malicious and so on, right? So CASB also goes and talks to the security graph, and it also gets details from there and see which app is malicious and which app is not and so on. Okay, so that's also part of Cloud App Security. And also Cloud App Security goes through some of your on-prem data content and also helps the MIP or information protection to protect your data. So now we'll go into the information protection piece. So information protection piece is where you protect your organization's data, right? So now, we have seen countries fighting for gold, land, right? Wars coming in and so on. Now it's all about data. They say data is the next oil, data is the new gold, oil, no, what and what not, right? So data is very, very important. So how do you protect that data? Is using Microsoft Information Protection. So Microsoft Information Protection has a lot of subcomponents, like endpoint DLP comes into play, right? Which make sure that your users are not able to copy data from their desktop to USB, copy and put data to cloud storages, copy protected data into emails and so on and so forth, right? So how does endpoint DLP works and how does it identify whether this is corporate data, whether this is highly confidential data? By using something called Azure Information Protection coming into play there, right? Using Azure Information Protection, we are able to label and classify all these data, right? And say that this is important, this is general, this is highly confidential, this is confidential, and so on and so forth. And you can do that manually or automatically, right? Because all these security solutions run on top of AI and ML, right? Artificial intelligence and machine learning is infused in all of these, right? And it uses those technologies to automatically capture on whether it is important or not. Important information or whether it is public information and so on and so forth based on the configurations. Now, all of these, see, this is the beauty of having the Microsoft solution is all of these are integrated together. MDO is integrated with Azure Identity Protection, and that integrates with the MDE, that is integrated with MDI, that is integrated with MCAS, that is integrated with MIP and so on, right? Everything is integrated with each other, all right? And it works together, right? So that, we don't have to go into 5 different security vendors and find out, okay, what is the log there? What is the alert there? What is the finding over here? And then each other pointing at each other's self that this is not my fault, this is your fault, and so on. Here, everything is with the same vendor and everything is integrated and it all talks to each other and it all combines the alerts and creates an incident. Okay, creates an incident and send it to your SIEM, right? Which is basically is managed by your security team, right? So that is where the XDR comes into play. So if I am to explain a little bit more there, that is, if you take Microsoft Defender for Office 365, right? Let's say that you are using some other solution, all right? When a threat comes, that will generate its own alert, right? Let's say you have a third party or a different solution for your antivirus. That gives you a different type of an alert, right? Then let's say you have another solution for your identity protection. That will have its own alert, right? Let's say you have another solution for your Cloud App Security. That has its own alerts. You have another solution for your information protection. That will have its own alerts. Now we have 5 different products having 5 different alerts and giving all those 5 different alerts to your security team to come to a decision. Can you come to a decision? No, because you are confused which one is false positive, which one is the right incident or the right alert, and so on and so forth. Okay, so imagine that is from a single breach, right? So how many alerts in a day that from a 250, 300 computer based company can come in, right? If there could be 1,500 alerts, if one alert comes in for a computer, right? And per computer, it comes like 5 different alerts from 5 different solution areas. For 300 computers, you have 1,500 alerts that your security team has to go through. All right, that's a lot. Okay, so now what happens is, since all of these are integrated, it generates lesser alerts. All right, and that alerts will go into your XDR or your unified portal. Right, the unified portal will take all these alerts together, combine everything together, and create one incident and send that incident to your SIEM, right? Which is, end of the day, is Azure Sentinel. Right, that's a different product that goes to Azure Sentinel, where your security operations team will be able to monitor the SIEM as the final tool and see, okay, the origination and the depth of an attack, its life cycle, and how to manage it, and so on and so forth. Right. So this is the total story of the zero trust solutions that we have. All right. In a nutshell, there are much more features and so on. So, looking at the time, I'm cutting it short. Now, when we look at the Microsoft Cloud, we have so many certifications. I mean, it's been growing day by day. We have all the ISO related certifications, right? Government related certifications, industry related certifications, regional related certifications that are there, right? So these are all public information that's there. You'll be able to go and have a look. And some of these solutions that I spoke about, like access management, cloud app security broker, information archiving, endpoint protection, right? And unified endpoint management, all of those, Microsoft is there inside the Gartner Magic Quadrant inside as the leader, right? So we are there in almost all the solution areas that we spoke about. Okay, so these are things that are there. So now, when you have a business plan, right? Now you may think, okay, you know what? I have business premium or business standard. How do I get these solutions? All right. How do I protect my organization? So if you take business premium has the Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Plan 1, right? And it will protect. And it has some level of other security configurations that are available. But if you are looking at the holistic security solutions coming into play, that is where you would need the Microsoft 365 E5 or the E5 security pack coming in, right? So E3 has all these Office 365 E3 solutions and the Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 1. It has the endpoint manager, right? And it has the information protection or Azure AIP. It has the other solutions like, Windows Defender and so on and so forth. But when you look into the E5 security, right, or the E5 area, it has quite a lot, right? It has the safe document application guard part. It has the Microsoft for Defender for Plan 2 and Plan 1 also is included. It has the Defender for Identity. It has the Cloud App Security. It has the Azure Active Directory Premium 2, right? And MDE, right? All together bundled in, right? And it also has the MIP part that are coming in. So all of these can be either bought in as a individual component that can be plugged into your current environment, or you can, if you want a more cost-effective method, then you could have it all in bundles, right? Like M365 E5 security, compliance, right? And so on and so forth. So you could have those in bundles, which could be at least 40% cheaper than buying individual solutions, right? Of course, when you buy in the bundle in solutions, there are certain prerequisites. For an example, if you want to have the E5 security, you need to have Office 365, E3, plus EMS E3 as the minimum requirement, or M365 E3, right? So those things, I think the GenX team will be able to help you out, right? I just wanted to give you an idea on what level of security solutions that we have and what these security solutions could help you in achieve a zero trust environment in your organization. So this is what I wanted to cover today. So if you have questions, please do put it in the chat and we'll be able to take it. And with that, I pass this on to the GenX team to share what is the offerings that they have on. They'll be able to help you guys out if you have any requirements or any clarifications that needs to be made. Thank you so much for your time. Shamal?
Thank you, Akash. We have some questions on chat. So if we can take those first, and then we can take any other questions that we have from the audience. Shanti?
Right. Let me have a quick look in the chat and the Q&A. Let me have a look here first. All right, so there is a question.
Okay, Akash, can I help you with it?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You can read.
First question is, how can admin account get compromised?
So, okay, so there are multiple ways an admin account can compromise, right? Because you have several ways of DDoS comes in. Let's say an admin account person has an email account that's been opened up. He or she gets an email with a malicious link or a document, which they double click, boom, it's gone, right? So you will be able to, I mean, that will be a compromisation, right? So the moment that the malicious attacker comes in, then it's about lateral movement that they go in, right? From one point to another within the network. They could use multiple tools in order to collect your dump and so on and so forth, right? So, so there are countless possibilities on how that could be done, but it is possible. So those are ways that can come in.
Okay, the next one is from Ajantan. How do we make sure our data is protected? It's, I think how do we make sure our data is protected? So
you first is you'll have to make sure that you have a proper username and password policy with multi-factor comes in, because your data is always protected. By your identity, right? You have to make sure that your identity is secure, right? With the right usernames, with the right complex password requirements, and then you will have to enable multi-factor, right? And if possible, enable conditional access as well. And then you need to make sure that people use proper and healthy devices, right, to access those data, right? That's the next level of protection that you should have, is make sure that your devices are compliant, right? You have a device management policy, something like Intune comes in order to make sure that the device is updated. It has all the latest security patches, your endpoint security is updated, right? All of those comes in. And then you could also have something like information protection coming in, Azure information protection along with endpoint DLP, those sort of comes in, right? So when those policies also come in, we can make sure that all these data is protected, and the relevant permissions and policies not only is combined with the file, and it travels through the file, right? Travels through the data. Even if you send it to someone else, the settings and the policies are also inside, right? So those are some of the ways that you would be able to make sure that you can protect your data. And of course, you have to make sure that you have least privilege for every user, right? So those are ways that you could, yeah.
So next one is, what is the most effective verifying methods according to you?
Effective verifying methods.
Effective
Right.
verifying methods.
Okay, so of course you will have multi-factor coming in, right? To verify every identity that comes in, then you need to have a complex password. Okay. Now, if you are on Windows 10 and above, we have something called Windows Hello coming in, right? So with Windows Hello, that is where we take the passwordless authentication coming in. When we say passwordless, it's either your biometric fingerprints or PIN numbers, right? So all of those coming in. So it's a matter of using a mix of all these different types of authentication and authorization methods in order to make sure that you verify properly. But always have multiple methods of authentication. Don't just stick to one, right? Not only a password, because you need to have another type of verification.
Do you have a solution for SIEM?
Yes, we do have a solution for SIEM that is called as Azure Sentinel. Of course, I did not cover it here. That is something that runs on top of Azure. So what Azure Sentinel does is you could manually feed in logs, or it will also travel through all the different type of APIs that you have, and it will talk to all those APIs and collect all the information and give you the right data insights as a SIEM. Or you can have data coming in from your M365 infrastructure, from your Defender XDR, like I explained to you earlier, which will capture alerts and logs from different products, like from the Defender products, and then it will pump those logs into the Azure SIEM. And also using the Defender XDR, you would be able to extract those data and use KQL language in order to do advanced hunting as well, right? Those things are threat hunting rather. So those things are available.
Coming from Tarinder, we are using the Intune MDM, but some apps is not using. So it's more of a state.
Yeah, so maybe there could be several reasons for that. We'll need to have a look at what is the license that you use, what are the apps that are being not using that what you're mentioning, or not working that you're mentioning, right? So if we can have a look at the configuration, if Genix would be able to help you guys out, I think that would be one of the methods that you would be able to troubleshoot, or one of the methods that you could use. But Intune in general works perfectly fine across almost all the apps that are there. I know for a fact that there are a lot of enterprise as well as commercial customers across the globe who are using on almost all platforms. It manages iOS, Android, as well as Windows platforms, mobile devices, as well as fixed devices. Yeah, so that's there. And I know that there has been a known issue in the recent past. The basic MDM had some changes when Android released an update, latest update, but that's fixed now. There are patches and updates coming in, so all of those things would be sorted. But for your issue, I think you need to touch base with the partner or raise a support ticket. Yeah. You're on mute, Shamal.
So like Akash mentioned, before I read the next question, please feel free to get in touch with him. I think Tarinder as well as Ajantan, right? So we can discuss more, right, in line with what Akash explained on your question. So we'll be more than happy to address and see how we can help you. So the next question is, so we need to give 2 accounts to admin in any type of license. Do we give 2 accounts?
So it's like this, right? The global admin already has access to it. So it's the user license that you'll have to put in for the user account, right? So that's what it means.
Next one, how do Microsoft get predictive analysis on potential threats?
Okay, so that is where, like I said, I have a slide on that. Let me share that. So it will be, hopefully it doesn't crash now. This is where we get all the intelligence from. So see, Microsoft is a company which has a lot of insights coming in. We have Windows that's been used by about 1.2 billion people across the globe. Azure authentications happen a billion plus authentications almost every day, right? Xbox is being used by about 65 million people, right? So these are different platforms that is being used, all right? And then we do have transactions that's happening almost every day, like 630 billion identities. I mean, transact across Microsoft, and there are about 470 billion plus emails that have been transferred across the Office 365 and different platforms that we have. So with all these details, there's a lot of telemetry that's been built. All right, and this telemetry is what we call a security graph, and that is where the predictive analysis comes in, as well as the comparison comes in. I hope that answers the question.
So the next question is, doesn't EOP cover scan email for phishing? Why do we need Plan 1?
All right, so EOP is across all related Office 365 plans that are built into it, right? So MDO has additional features than EOP, right? MDO Plan 1, and then MDO Plan 2 has more features than MDO Plan 1, right? So it all has its own unique features that will be better than, that will serve more than what the other solutions are, right? For an example, EOP is the basic level one, and then we have a better secure one like Plan 1, and then we have Plan 2. Plan 2 also has features like, for an example, just give me a second, please. Sorry. So Plan 2 of MDO has features such as what do you call? There's a nice feature where you would be able to simulate attack simulation, right? So attack simulation, what it does is, I was telling earlier that the weakest link is your users, right? So how do we know that the users are trained and whether they need training is we simulate attacks within the organization, like a phishing attack, with the built-in playbooks that are available, right? And we open up an attack, right? So, and when the user clicks on it, it gives the necessary insights to the admins and the security team, and then they'll be able to map out certain training saying that, okay, these users have clicked in. That means that those users are unaware of the threats that are available and what sort of impact that these things could do, right? So those are different solutions that are available, and that's not available on EOP, that's available on MDO. So that's what I said, like different features are there which would be able to better protect your environment. Hope that helps.
So the next question, I think, is a follow-up on this. And I would like to answer that saying that we'll be more than happy. It says, do you have an idea of the cost of individual components? Only it has come as anonymous. So if there is a participant who wants to know about it, please do get in touch with us, and we will definitely help you in every information that you require. The next question, there are two detailed questions from Thilina. First question being, Microsoft Office or Windows Update are critical requirements, but no prevent more data charge. Some companies block updates through firewall. How this affect MDM or Intune activities? Do you want to repeat that? So basically, Microsoft Office or Windows updates are critical requirements, full stop. But to prevent more data charge, some companies block updates through firewall.
Yeah, I understand, right? So see, some organizations must be stopping the updates in order to save on the data charges. But if the systems are not updated, that may even open up more charges than the data charges, right? And that may even put them out of business with certain breaches that can happen. But there are different ways where you would be able to manage these updates, right? For an example, there are ways that you could push these updates through Intune, or you could have something called WSUS. Okay, so you could have something called Windows Server Update Services, which comes part of the SCCM configuration manager solution for an on-prem environment. So here what happens is all the updates will be downloaded to a local WSUS server or your SCCM, and then so it will be only a download which happens once, and then that will be distributed across your local LAN, right, to all your other PCs, right? So here that means that there will be no data charge. It's just that local network that will be used. Only it will be downloaded once, right? But please note that not only Microsoft, any vendor, updates is a must. So make sure if there is an update, you update your devices, because that is where you get your security patches and so on. Yeah.
So the last question that is forwarded as of now is also from Tilina. Multi-factor authentication is good. It works with mobile phones. So students have Microsoft accounts. They need to access their accounts within school devices. Example, PC labs, etc. They are not allowed to use mobiles in school. Is there any other authentication method for students? So it's like asking whether there is a second level authentication on mobiles.
So if multi-factor is, and I mean, if the mobile is not allowed, there are other solutions, but I don't know how far those things are practical. There is something called FIDO Key 2, right? FIDO devices that comes along where you would be able to authenticate, but those things are going to be expensive, and using mobile devices are much more cheaper, and that's there. And also you could use Windows Hello coming in. So Windows Hello will be helping you to authenticate using your biometric and your retina or facial scan and so on and so forth. So that that would be pretty hard in order to crack. And also the Windows PIN that could be used. So those are things that are available at the moment.
Okay, Akash. So, dear customers, thank you very much for probing all those questions, and I hope the session was very informative, and we will be able to work with you to make your infrastructure and the data more secure. And we look forward to your continued connection with us, speaking to our account managers, and even to any one of us within GenX. So we'll be there to work with you. Sorry we have taken a little more time than expected, but I hope that we were able to give you some insight to what we can do with Microsoft products to you. Thank you. Thank you, Akash, once again for sparing your time. And we will look forward to more webinars like that to keep you all appraised of what GenX is capable of doing to your organization.
Thanks so much, Shama. Thanks for the opportunity. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and have a nice weekend. I hope you guys enjoy the session. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.